Good morning. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. I'm your host, and we're diving deep into the political maneuvering that's already beginning to shape the landscape for the 2027 general election. Our focus this morning is on one of the most prominent figures in the opposition, a man whose next move is being watched with intense scrutiny: Nairobi Senator and Orange Democratic Movement Secretary General, Edwin Sifuna. He's keeping his cards exceptionally close to his chest regarding his 2027 ballot plans, and that strategic silence is sending ripples through Kenya's political arena. We'll unpack what this means for the ODM party, the Azimio la Umoja coalition, and the national opposition strategy against President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza administration. We have a packed 12-minute analysis, featuring multiple perspectives from political strategists and insiders. Let's get started. First, let's establish the current political context. It is February 26, 2026. President William Ruto is in the second year of his first term, having been inaugurated on January 20th, 2025. The next general election is scheduled for August 2027, which is now just under 18 months away. In Kenyan politics, the campaign cycle never truly ends, and the jostling for position within parties and coalitions begins years in advance. For the opposition, the question of who will carry the flag against an incumbent president is paramount. Within the Azimio coalition, the ODM party remains the largest single bloc, and within ODM, the Secretary General is a position of immense organizational power and influence. Edwin Sifuna holds that role. He is also the senator for Nairobi County, a position he won with a significant margin of over 800,000 votes in the 2022 election. His public profile is high, his rhetoric is sharp, and his loyalty to party leader Raila Odinga has been unquestioned. But as 2027 approaches, the question everyone is asking is, what does Edwin Sifuna want for himself? Our political desk has been speaking to sources close to the senator, and the message is consistent: he is not showing his hand. When directly asked about his 2027 ambitions, whether he will defend his Nairobi Senate seat, run for governor of Nairobi, or even aim for a national position, Sifuna's response has been a masterclass in political deflection. He speaks of party unity, the broader Azimio mission, and the need to focus on holding the government accountable. This is a calculated strategy. Declaring one's ambitions too early in Kenyan politics can make you a target. It can attract premature attacks from rivals within your own coalition and from the opposing side. It can also box you into a position you may later wish to change. By remaining silent, Sifuna retains maximum flexibility. He can assess the political terrain, gauge the strength of potential opponents, and negotiate from a position of strength when the time for party nominations arrives. But this silence is also creating anxiety. It leaves a vacuum that others may try to fill. Let's bring in our first perspective. Joining us virtually is political analyst Michael Njenga. Michael, what's your read on Sifuna's game of silence? Michael Njenga, good morning. I see this as a three-dimensional chess move. Sifuna is arguably the most effective communicator in ODM after Raila Odinga himself. His performance on the Senate floor and in media interviews has cemented him as a formidable debater and a staunch defender of the opposition's agenda. However, his ultimate ambition is the subject of much speculation. There are essentially three lanes open to him in 2027. First, the Nairobi governor's seat. The current governor, Johnson Sakaja, will be seeking re-election. A Sifuna versus Sakaja battle would be a mega clash, pitting ODM's national organizer against Kenya Kwanza's most prominent county chief. Our internal polling from last month suggests a hypothetical race would be incredibly tight, with Sakaja currently holding a narrow lead of just 2 percentage points, 48% to 46%, with 6% undecided. Second, he could defend his Senate seat. That would be the safer option, but perhaps not the most ambitious for a politician of his caliber. Third, and this is the wild card, he could be positioned for a running mate slot on a presidential ticket should Raila Odinga choose to run again, or should another Azimio flag bearer emerge. Host, that's a crucial point. The running mate speculation is particularly intense. Let's visualize that hypothetical Nairobi governor race you mentioned. Now, let's consider the party dynamics. Edwin Sifuna is the ODM Secretary General. This is not just a title, it's the engine room of the party. He is responsible for membership, discipline, and most importantly, managing the party's primaries. This gives him unprecedented influence over who gets the ODM ticket in constituencies across the country. If he harbors ambitions for a specific seat, being the gatekeeper for all other nominations is a position of immense power. He can quietly shape the field to his advantage. However, this also creates potential conflicts of interest. If he is seen to be using his position to clear the field for his own ambition, it could cause significant internal rebellion. We've already seen murmurs. Just last week, at least 3 other prominent ODM figures from Nairobi were reported to be eyeing the gubernatorial ticket. They include a current member of parliament and a former gubernatorial candidate. They are unlikely to step aside quietly if Sifuna decides to run. A bruising nomination battle in ODM's strongest urban base is the last thing the Azimio coalition needs as it tries to present a united front against President Ruto. For a deeper look at the internal ODM landscape, we're joined by party insider Wanjiru Mwangi, who has agreed to speak on condition of anonymity. Wanjiru, what is the mood within the party regarding Sifuna's future? WNJRU Mwangi, thank you. There are 2 main schools of thought. One group, largely the younger, more digital-savvy wing of the party, is actively pushing for Sifuna to go for governor. They see him as the candidate who can energize the base and reclaim Nairobi from Kenya Kwanza. They point to his voter mobilization in 2022, where he personally oversaw efforts that registered over 120,000 new ODM members in Nairobi alone. The other group, which includes some longer-serving elected officials, believes he is more valuable as Secretary General. They worry that if he runs for governor and loses, the party loses both a key seat and its chief organizer. They also question if Nairobi is truly winnable, given the resources the national government can deploy to support Sakaja. It's a tense waiting game. Everyone is reading his every public statement for clues. Host, 120,000 new members is a staggering figure. Let's put that organizational strength into perspective. That organizational capability is Sifuna's strongest card. Beyond the rhetoric, he has built a reputation as a ground game strategist. The ODM party membership, according to the latest internal audit he presented to the National Executive Committee in January, now stands at approximately 5.2 million registered members nationally. That's an increase of nearly 15% since the last election. In Nairobi, the party claims a membership of over 900,000. These are numbers that translate directly into nomination votes and campaign foot soldiers. If Sifuna decides to run for any position, he starts with a massive built-in advantage within the party. But the general election is a different battlefield. Nairobi County has a total of 2.4 million registered voters as of the last IEBC quarterly report. Winning them requires transcending party lines. Now, let's shift to the national coalition perspective. Azimio la Umoja is a constellation of parties. ODM is the largest, but it must manage relationships with Wiper, Jubilee, and others. The selection of a presidential candidate and a running mate will be a delicate negotiation. Some within Azimio's smaller parties are already quietly suggesting that the running mate slot should not automatically go to ODM, arguing for regional and ethnic balance. If Raila Odinga, who will be 82 years old in 2027, decides not to run, the scramble will be even more intense. In such a scenario, Sifuna's name has been floated as a potential compromise candidate for a national position, perhaps even running mate to a flag bearer from another Azimio party. His Luo Kikuyu heritage is seen by some strategists as a potentially unifying factor. However, this is all speculative. The official Azimio line is that discussions about 2027 candidates are premature. To get a sense of the Kenya Kwanza perspective, we spoke to a strategist within the United Democratic Alliance, who offered this view. Sifuna's silence is a sign of weakness, not strength. It shows he is uncertain of his ground. Nairobi is a Kenya Kwanza city now. Governor Sakaja's development record, particularly in road construction and market upgrades, will be his ticket to re-election. We have overseen the allocation of over 500 million shillings for county projects in this financial year alone. The opposition can play musical chairs with their candidates, but the result will be the same. That, of course, is the view from the other side. Let's examine the financial dimension, which is often the deciding factor in Kenyan politics. Running for governor of Nairobi is arguably the most expensive county race in the country. Estimates from the 2022 campaign suggest the top contenders spent upwards of 2.5 billion shillings each. In 2027, with inflation, that figure could easily reach 3 billion. Does Sifuna have access to that kind of war chest? As Secretary General, he has influence over party resources, but ODM's finances have been under strain since moving to opposition. A report by the Political Parties Fund shows that in the last disbursement, ODM received 900 million shillings, the largest allocation to any party. However, that money is for nationwide operations. A gubernatorial bid would require a separate, massive fundraising effort. In contrast, defending a Senate seat is far less costly, estimated at around one-fifth of the gubernatorial budget. The financial disparity between the two races is stark. Let's visualize the estimated campaign costs. Beyond money, there's the question of legacy and timing. Is 2027 Sifuna's time? Some analysts argue that at 48 years old, he has a long political career ahead of him. Perhaps 2027 is about consolidating his power within ODM, ensuring the party's structure is robust, and positioning himself as the undeniable successor to the current party leadership for the 2032 cycle and beyond. A failed gubernatorial bid could derail that long game. A successful Senate re-election, coupled with a strong performance as Secretary General in delivering a favorable outcome for ODM across the country, could make him the undisputed frontrunner for anything in the future. Finally, we cannot ignore the personal relationship with Raila Odinga Sifu. Na's rise has been closely tied to his loyalty to Odinga. Ultimately, his decision will likely be made in consultation with the party leader. The message from Raila's camp has been one of total focus on the 2027 presidential race. They do not want any internal distractions. This pressure might lead Sifuna to choose the path that causes the least internal friction for the party, at least in the short term. In summary, Edwin Sifuna's strategic silence on his 2027 plans is a multifaceted political tactic. It keeps rivals guessing, maintains his negotiating power, and allows him to respond to a rapidly changing environment. The options before him, governor, senator, or running mate, each carry high risks and high rewards. The data shows his organizational strength within ODM is formidable, with over 5 million members nationally. However, the general election battlefield, especially in Nairobi, presents a formidable challenge against an incumbent county government backed by the national administration. His decision, when it finally comes, will be a pivotal moment that will reshape the opposition's strategy and define the political trajectory of one of Kenya's most prominent young leaders. The countdown to 2027 continues, and all eyes remain on the ODM Secretary General. For Kenya News Update Today, I'm your host. Subscribe to Kenya News Update Today.